Good evening and welcome to our school committee meeting of this Wednesday, December 5th, 2018. It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will remind everyone that we are being broadcast live as well as being recorded for future rebroadcast. First up on our agenda, we have our student representative, Natalie Champagne.
Hey. So this time of year is like usually very busy around the school and stuff. So most of the stuff that's happening is all like happening before break and in the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow we have our music and band concert for the chorus, and then the pep band and color guard has a floor show. I believe it starts at 6:30. You guys can come as well and stuff. It's a nice like activity that we have for them to like showcase their talents and stuff. Friday we have a basketball game, and there's a dance for a senior project being held after it. So it's a nice Friday night out kind of thing. Next Friday we have a student written and produced play happening. It's called The Green Team. It's a $5 admissions ticket that is also open to anybody who would like to come. My friend wrote it. It's really good. Next Wednesday, we have our parent-teacher conferences. It starts at 5:30. We will have NHS members be around the school to help parents navigate different hallways and find the teachers and stuff. Toys for Tots is ending this week. It's a penny wars between grades, and it raises money for the organization. And we're also in the middle of Peer Leaders 12 Days of Christmas, which raises, which like collects food for the food pantry and canned goods, and each day is a different type of food that you're supposed to bring in. And then we also have our winter skits, which is each grade writes and presents a skit, like a short little holiday like play almost on the last day of school before break.
It is a very busy time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Busy time. A lot of things going on at this point before the holiday.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, Natalie.
At this time, I'll open up to public comment and communication. The school committee welcomes public comment on items that are within the scope of the school committee's responsibilities. Public comment agenda item is reserved for this purpose. Seeing none, we will move on to any old business anyone would like to address. Any new business? Okay. In that case, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Maines.
Okay, thank you. I have two items on the docket tonight. The first is just an update with regards to the contract, the agreement that we have with the Douglas Teachers Association for a review or a revision or the creation of a new salary grid for teachers, their wages. We had talked about this a few times, so I met with the DTA leadership team last week. We agreed that both sides will make a schedule of meeting dates, and they would hope that the first meeting date could be held after the new year, to which I said we would be fine with that. They were made aware of our negotiating team, so I gave them all of the names of those who would be participating in it. They also anticipate that there'll be 5 or 6 members participating for the DTA. Again, that will be made up mostly of leadership team members or building reps. We did banter around some ideas on how to go forward, a little bit on process. There's obviously some different ways we can look at it. Ms. Keegan and I talked about it the other day. Might be as simple as just creating a completely separate grid A for anybody who's hired for the 1920 school year, keep everybody who's presently here on the existing grid, and that might be easier.
Right.
Clerically, I think it might work. It might be a challenge. But we do need to address it. So rather than trying to find a place where we can plug it in, it might be easy just to do a separate one. But we can, again, that's
Put
what we're
those
going to talk
options on
about.
the table and
Right.
discuss. Yep.
And it might be the more expedient way for us to get it done as well. So,
Good thinking.
so that's kind of where we left it at that. I wanted to get back to you and let you know that we'll be looking for a date. So when we come back on the 19th for our next meeting, I will try to pin them down to a date in January, a couple of dates in January to see what would work. I guess the biggest question would be, would there be availability to meet in the afternoons?
Yeah, on a particular day, I can probably make that happen, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can, depending on the day, yeah.
Might just be
Yeah.
easy to get everybody together at, say, 3:15 and try to work through it. Okay,
Yep.
so I will.
Yeah, with enough notice.
Yes,
should be fine.
yes, that's what I'm saying. If we can, if I can get them a couple of dates, and then I can give them to you on the
Yep.
19th, we can then finalize a date
Sounds good.
to meet with them. All right, so that's the salary grid update. The update on the flood damage might take a little bit of time. The great flood of 2018. Josh and Jeff and all of the Service Master people and Rebuildex and all of the custodian staff and Gordy and myself, everybody's been involved in it. So, great news. The hallways downstairs are now open.
Oh, great.
So that's a great thing. A number of rooms have been wall-boarded, have been plastered, have had the painting done, floors have been washed, things have been brought back to the classroom. Things are in boxes, but they're back in the classroom. The hallways itself have been washed. The first floor bathrooms have been cleaned. So we're now using the hallways. Josh, I don't know, are they using their lockers again?
I asked them to hold off on using the lockers because I'm afraid Adam and I were looking at it, the daytime custodian, we're looking at it, and we're worried that if, when they rip up the floor, if they do that over the winter break, if it kicks up a lot of dust and stuff, it'll get in through the vents, and I don't want somebody to come back and say my $500 jacket was ruined by
Right.
plaster dust. So we've asked them to keep their stuff. And I know, like, I could ask them, like, make sure you clean out your locker
Yeah.
before you leave for break, but that's not a
We
guarantee.
can also
that-
ask the construction company to drape the lockers with
Yeah, we
some
can do that.
plastic. I mean,
I'll see. I'll talk to Jeff and we'll see what the plan's going to be as far as the replacement on the floor.
we did get some people back into their rooms today. Emily Mayo, who had been up here, is back in her room in the English department. John Wagenheim is back in his science room. We're hoping to get biology
She moved after school today.
There we go. So she's
So-
moving back in, which is great.
It's not really her room. It's actually the robotics room, but it's close enough. It's a lab. She can do
Okay.
biology in there. So
There is absolutely nothing in the room where the initial flooding
That's been
took
stripped.
place. It has
Yeah.
been, it's absolutely clean. There's nothing in there other than the electricity and some of the feeds for the gas and water and so forth.
and one disco
But the
ball.
floor is gone, and one disco ball that's in the roof that we don't know why it's there.
Bob
but it
Goss,
is there.
baby.
Bob Goss was a creative sort. So the lab, hopefully, that, I think probably by April, that's gonna be probably April vacation if we're lucky to get that room back. Well, all new cabinets,
Yeah, that's the
they
biggest
need to be
thing.
made, the floor has to be done. There's quite a bit of stuff. It's really the cabinets that we'd be waiting for, and if we're lucky, it could be earlier, but I'm trying to prepare everybody for the worst-case scenario. There was a couple of smaller rooms that have been renovated. There's still some work that needs to be done in all those rooms. If you look on the floor, there's that piece called the coping that runs around. They just need to put the coping in, but that's pretty much easy. So those rooms will be back in condition and ready to go. The book storage room's still got to get done. There's a floor that's got to go in there. The school resource officer's room needs a new floor. That small
Colette's
conference room, ISS
Small
room.
conference room, the neutralization room, and the electrical closet down there all need to be done.
Yeah, they all
But
need floors.
It's most of the areas that we actually use for classes have been restored. It's really just 2 classrooms because Bill Hillman, the business teacher's classroom, isn't finished yet either,
Yep.
and that's going to be a long one too.
That's going to be a long process.
Is that an April one as well, probably?
I think before that.
Okay.
So to kind of summarize, a couple classrooms already open, sounds like a few more very close, open within the next week.
So we've got 2 classrooms open, one more getting open tomorrow.
Yep.
She's moving into a different room, but it's a science lab, which is good. A couple of the small academic support rooms are now open, so that they were shut down. So a couple of combinations. Ed LaChapelle has to move his robotics.
So Mr. LaChapelle moved his robotics into Miss Sabicki's room. Miss Sabicki is in the room that the pairs used for small group testing, but it's large enough to accommodate larger groups. So, and then we're using one of the seminar rooms that had mostly been used for storage is now the small group testing room.
Yeah.
So it's, there's sort of a little chain that goes down, but
Yeah.
you know, but that gave Miss Chapman a bio room that she could use instead of, you know,
Because
that she really
that was the
needed
room that
that.
Mr. LaChapelle was using, is the middle science room, and I think it's better to have the science class go in there so that she can do her labs, because she does teach
Yeah.
3 or 4 science classes, and she's doing anatomy and physiology as well.
Right.
So she needs that room. So I have to comment that everybody was really, really helpful. The kids were great. There really wasn't a lot of concern. It was interesting to see people who've been around here for a lot of years and their expressions when they finally had the hallway open and they could move about freely. They were really happy about that. You know, everybody's creatures of habits, and so there always was a printing room right there.
Yeah.
Now the printing room was around the hallway.
Down the
upstairs,
corner in the
down-
hall, yeah.
And so that all changed a lot, so they were all, you know, a little bit happier to see things getting back to some semblance of normal. But to also just be able to see down that hallway again was really nice. You know, so the work is getting done slowly but surely. The big project still ahead would be the floor. There's a lot of floors that are going to need to be replaced. A good section of the hallway downstairs, from the start of the history wing all the way down to the English wing, is going to probably need to be replaced, and then out to the exit door as well. So that's going to be a big project, and that's going to take a little bit of time. We're hoping that maybe February vacation, they'll be able to do that. They'll have a full week dedicated to it, with nobody in the building. So that's what we're hoping for, and they can get that taken care of,
Okay.
so that they can continue to travel and up and down the hallways. So, but that's sort of a quick update. Josh, anything that you would like to?
No, just it was great because we weren't expecting to get back in those classrooms until like the end of this week, and weren't expecting the hallway to be open until today. Came in Monday morning, and the hallway was the zipper walls were down, and
Yeah.
and everybody's kind of standing at the edge of them like, can we go down here?
Do we dare go in?
Go beyond the.
So
That's good.
But and again, everybody was really great. The kids were great. The teachers were great. Josh and all the people here did a great job, and they were very amenable to moving. They knew they had to. And I would say that Service Master was very helpful in keeping and being able to work with us to make sure that we had as little disruption, if you can have as little disruption with 16 rooms being damaged. They did a good job with it.
they did a great job of listening to when we talked to them about what would be best for us to have fixed first, like, or what our priority list would be. They were very accommodating with that. I was actually kind of surprised they were able to make it happen the way they did. It really worked out.
So there's a quick update on that. So that's everything that I had, and Josh will come back up in a little bit when we talk about C-110. Unfortunately, he's been the only one here the last couple of weeks, so we're making note of that, so that we'll
All right.
bring some other people up.
Okay, so we will move on to our consent agenda, and first amongst that is our school committee meeting minutes from November 20th. I just noted one thing in my read-through, is that someplace it noted that our next meetings were going to be December 5th tonight and December 15th. I'm not sure if I misspoke about that and said the 15th,
19th,
or if that should actually read the 19th.
Yep.
So it may actually reflect that I misspoke, or it's a typo, one or the other, so it should reflect at our next meetings.
Probably just a typo.
Yeah.
Did we have anything for accounts payable?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, did I skip over? Sorry,
Sorry.
not that?
Yep.
Okay. Took us
I
out
didn't
of
see
order.
anything else in the
All
meeting
right.
minutes either.
We'll return to consent agenda in a minute. School committee and subcommittee reports, accounts payable report. Sorry.
Just had one warrant on the 15th, November 15th, and there was 15 batches totaling $105,280.52. That's it, nothing special.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Now we'll move to consent agenda. So, as discussed, just that one correction on meeting minutes. Did anyone have anything else you want to correct? No? Okay, so in that case, I'll be looking for a motion to approve our November 20th, 2018 school committee meeting minutes. Motion from Julie,
Second.
second from Lisa. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, great. Next is our parent-teacher conference night reschedule.
Okay, so this is in relationship to the storm that we had back, I think it was I had it written down, something. 15th of November, was it then?
Yeah.
I think it was the 15th, right? And as a result, the evening section of the parent-teacher conference schedule was canceled that night. So I've met recently with the Douglas Teachers Association to discuss trying to come up with an alternative date for us to meet and to hold these parent-teacher conferences. We talked about the possibility of next Wednesday, which would be the 12th. There was a great deal of discussion on the nature of the school day in relationship to the parent-teacher conferences that would be held that night. So I provided to you at your place just some of the language that is in the collective bargaining agreement under the workday. You'll see a section that says where students are dismissed early or are not required to attend school due to teacher in-service or where time has been otherwise set aside for teacher meetings. Teachers' working hours will be set by the district, subject to a 7-hour minimum. Maximum, I'm sorry. Thank you. I had spoken with them and had asked for their consideration of doing the 12th as a full school day so as not to change the calendar of the district. There was discussion about the contract itself, and they referenced on the second page under the heading evening minutes. Evening meetings, it says, teachers will be required to attend 2 evening meetings per school year. These meetings will not exceed 3 hours, and the teachers will be released early on the days such meetings are held. So by contract, if we were to look to do a full day on the 12th and parent-teacher conferences at night, we would be in violation of 2 aspects of the collective bargaining agreement. One is that we would exceed 7 hours, and the other is that the evening meetings are agreed to be a early release day to accommodate the evening parent-teacher conferences. So the union had to take a vote to see if they would waive the consideration of those 2 clauses and do a separate addendum, which is what I had asked that they consider. To do a separate addendum that would be a one-time exception to these 2 clauses in the contract in order for us to do a full day and then do the conferences at night. The theory behind that was the concern, of course, being that those parents who are scheduled to come back for evening conferences would have to once again reschedule their day in order to come back. Whether or not that means daycare and additional things such as that. We would keep the same schedule for the evening, so whatever your time slot was, we would just keep that time slot going forward, and so everybody who was scheduled in would have an opportunity to meet. But it would require us to go and consider having a half-day on the 12th. Now, that being said, we cannot do a half-day on the 12th because the calendar says it's a full day unless you as a committee vote to change the calendar to a half-day in order to accommodate the evening parent-teacher meetings. Should you opt not to do that, then we would have to go back to the drawing board and try to find another day that would work, but there are no other half-days scheduled for quite some time, and the theory being that we're at the end of the first trimester. So,
Last day of school in December, why don't we do it then? I know it's a pain.
it's already in the calendar that it's a early release for the teachers.
That's
So
right.
they're not obligated to work that night.
And I don't think you'll get a lot of people coming in. That's the
But they're not,
21st.
but the problem is, it's similar. They would have to waive that. I'd have to ask them that. I could ask them that, but I don't know if they would consider doing it. And that is a Friday. So then your meetings would be Friday nights, which they can be done on a Friday night.
So I'm sorry, Kevin, you lost me at some point. We were talking about the teachers voting to potentially waive
These two clauses.
of the contract in order that we would be able to have a full day and still have the conferences.
correct.
But you're saying, were there meetings also scheduled for the afternoon
No,
originally?
there are no afternoon parent-teacher conferences. So they would come in for their 4.5 or 5.5 hours as it is at the high school, and then they would have release time, and then they would come back for their 2.5 or 3 hours of parent-teacher conferences at night. The difference being that we would not have a full day of school. It would require another early release day. There is no financial impact for buses, because the buses would run on an early release day rather than a full day. It would impact parents and families, I'm sure.
So
Well,
even
especially
if,
if they don't have vacation left in
if
December.
they waive the rights to the two clauses, we'd still need a half day? That's wrong?
No, it would
not.
be a full day.
Okay, so did they vote on this? And
They did.
And what did they vote?
They voted not to waive the two
Okay.
clauses.
That's, okay, that's the part I was missing.
So technically, we had a tentative date of the 12th, as you heard Natalie mention earlier, of the 12th. However, that is actually contingent upon your decision tonight, and then if it's not the 12th on a half-day, then is there a time that works where we could do it? So all I can say is that I strongly encouraged and hope that they would consider. I understand why they did not. The contract doesn't say that, and it would be a long day for the teachers. It would be 7 hours plus the 2.5 hours of the conferences, so it's a 9.5-hour day plus, whatever time it's going to take them to get cleaned up and out of the building and so forth. So that's kind of the reason why a full day, becomes problematic. The only other date that I could think of, and it's much later, is the Professional Development Day, which is on January 18th, which is quite a ways away. The issue with that is that we would do the first half of the day as our professional development, and then we would ask them to come back at night. The problem with that is that it's a Friday night.
And we could have another storm.
Well, you could have a storm any of these days at this point, so, I mean, we could schedule for the 12th and have another storm for all we know, but, so, that also puts you out at the halfway point of the school year, almost the halfway point of the school year, a couple of weeks short of the halfway point. That's, parents not having an opportunity to speak until that time is kind of a long time to wait to speak. So, that's why I wanted to present you with the literature that's here, and then for you to discuss what your thoughts are with regards to whether or not you want to amend the calendar and make the 12th a early release day based on the same schedule that was originally in place, which the release times are there, the return times are all there, and the parent-teacher conferences would be the exact same times as had been scheduled. Or if you want us to go back to the drawing board and try to find a better solution to it.
How come the high school didn't have to go through all this?
They do have to go through this.
Oh, I thought, we were already told that it was the 12th for the high school. It came
Yes.
out on the, one call and all that, it's all.
Yeah, so but it's contingent upon this vote.
So, the original day that was canceled was a Thursday? Is there a
It was a
reason we
Thursday,
haven't
right.
chosen a Thursday this time?
We chose the Wednesday, the only reason we chose the Wednesday was that there was a concert here on Thursday,
Yeah.
Okay,
and then the following week, there's a middle school concert as well.
okay.
So we couldn't do Thursday, we had to go to Wednesday, and we
Yeah,
figured.
and the reason I asked is just, different people are gonna have different schedules from the night of the week, so I know for us, moving it to a Wednesday, we're not gonna be able to make the time slot that we were originally
Right.
slotted into, so.
What's on Thursday? What concert?
The high school concert is here,
Oh, next
as Natalie
Thursday.
just presented, the high school concert, and then the following Thursday is the middle school concert,
And that's at what time?
6:30.
6:30. Right in the middle of it. Well, either way, you're gonna have parents that, like, can't make the change, or parents who didn't have conferences scheduled who would then have to find childcare for
Right.
a half day.
So we knew that when we canceled that this was gonna create some problems, but by the same token,
There's nothing we could do.
Yeah.
who was gonna come out in the snow
Yeah.
to keep their conference?
That was the right call, no matter what.
So,
Yeah.
so I don't know what the solution was. I knew that there would be some, there's a third option, which is just cancel it.
Cancel 'em.
Yeah, I'd say, are there any other,
Well, it'd be tough because they're
Solutions
talking
for-
about a huge number of people. There's
Can
not
we
like a
do
few
it
people
during
that are missed out.
the school day?
Say that again?
Can we have like can we have a full day of school and then like during the other half of school, like use the PTO or something and have like a big event for the kids? So that we don't inconvenience everybody?
So if I
You
understand
still
what you're
have
asking,
parents who can't
is
come during.
is to have a regular day of school, but,
Either way, the parents have to be off for their childcare.
Right. oh, but there's only a PTO at the primary and the elementary. There's no organization
Or
per
like
se.
the NHS, I don't know, I'm just trying to think out of the box, if
Yeah.
like we could keep them there and like do something. Utilize our resources that we have, that we usually don't.
Well, the primary issue would be that all of our teachers would be leaving the property, so there'd be no real certified supervision that we would have there, because it would just be the administrators that would be left. And, you know, you're talking about 400 kids with one administrator. Mr. Romano and I can handle it, I'm not
That's
sure if
easy.
Mr. Delaney can. So,
It gives us a week, I mean, I don't know.
so those are the three options. Again, I knew that, I'm not going to apologize because I think safety was the issue.
Yeah, right, nobody would have come.
So-
Nobody would have come.
As much as I would like to do it on Thursday, the problem is that the next Thursday is the 23rd, I believe it is, and I'm not too sure that a lot of people, or 22nd, are going to be coming out to
Yeah.
on the 22nd of December for parent-teacher conferences. So the other option is we don't have any other half-days that we could really hook it into, other than, like I said, that the 18th of January, that's a Friday night, which I would assume that there will be a basketball game probably here.
I don't, yeah.
They play Friday nights most of the time, so somebody will be playing at either the girls or the boys' team.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I don't think waiting beyond December is wise, and you would just cancel at that point. Doesn't make much sense.
I mean, if the committee's feeling is that everybody had sort of planned their thing around a Thursday, because Thursdays, they have a schedule that would work for them, then we can't move it to a Thursday, so,
Less concerned with that than,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just wondering why we didn't choose a Thursday, so.
yeah, so those are the two, they were back-to-back concerts in the buildings, in two buildings.
Wait, what's on Thursday, the 20th?
This Thursday coming up is the high school band
Right, on the
concert.
13th, but the following
What's
Thursday, on the
tomorrow's
20th?
the 6th, so 13th, and then the 20th is the
There's a
middle
track
school
meet
band
that night.
concert. Middle school has theirs on the 20th.
No, the 13th. So the 20th is open.
The 20th is open, but we were wondering whether or not people are going to come out on the 20th when it's so close to the holiday. I mean, you could do the 20th, that's a simple,
And you get 2 half-days in a row.
right, that's the other,
And I mean, like, technically, they're shut down by then.
Right. You know, we had looked at the Thursday before the professional development day, where they would have a half-day, but again, you still have to do a half-day. So you're losing time on learning if you did it on the Thursday before the professional development
And
day.
that's coming in right before midterms for
Correct.
the high school.
I think if you push it out further, then it's a wasted day. Whereas if it's the 12th, it's in the middle of the week, so you're not gonna get all the like, some kids, they don't go to school on those days. Some parents keep their kids' homes on the half-days. I hear, I don't know if that's true or not, but the 20th and 21st, why go to school? It's a
Please
waste of
share with them
time.
that they should be coming to school.
Right, so I mean, like, in some ways, it's just like, well, why bother going?
Right.
Those, like, so I feel like
Well,
the 12th is more real.
The interesting thing about all of this is, that, as you know, that we redid this and got it down and eliminated one of the half-days.
So I
Now-
got it back
And now we're
And now
back
it's-
to a third
And now it's
half-day.
back again. Best laid plans of mice and men.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's for you guys to discuss at this point, and we'll do whatever you think is best.
So if we go to the union and we have to negotiate with them, that's gonna just push it into January, most likely.
So, they are not,
Already
they've
said
already
no.
voted, so there's nothing to negotiate, because they're adamant that they will hold to the contract, which says it has to be a half, I shouldn't say a half day, an early release day, because it's really more than a half day. And the contract says they cannot work over 7 hours, so we would be asking them to work 9 and a half, depending upon which school you're in. So by contract, we can't make it work, the only option is for us to cancel, or for the committee to vote to turn the 12th or the 19th or the 20th or
Someday.
into a half-day and do the conferences on that date.
I don't think we should cancel it, because I don't think that that's fair. Because I think that that's an important communication that we need to have, and I think that we still need to try to attempt to do it, in my opinion.
I'm just thinking, I mean, I just know that so many people have trouble with, when they know the half-days at the beginning of the year,
Right.
working out
It's hard for
childcare and
everything
working out all their arrangements,
Right.
and to all of a sudden say next Wednesday's a half-day. I'm trying to weigh how many people are gonna show up for the conference versus how many people are gonna be
And what about
inconvenienced
sports, too?
by their,
Well, there probably will be a game of some sort.
Yeah.
It could be a
That's the
track
other
meet.
part.
that-
They have to stay after school with the kids, and how are the kids gonna get back and forth, so.
But technically, there could have been a game or a meet or something like that on the original date. It just that,
Yeah.
I mean, the soccer teams went deep into the playoffs, the cross-country team was running, so that's always kind of an option, a possibility, I should say. The reason why we said the 12th was we were trying to be as expedient as possible,
Yeah, no, I think, yeah.
so parents could, so as not to let it run too far. But we needed to wait the process time for them to vote. They had to post it for 5 days, which they did, and then they had to vote today. And then I knew that if we were going to change the calendar, I needed to have a school committee meeting, so it would have to, we couldn't make a decision any earlier than tonight on this matter.
So would kids come back to school for like middle school sports, and is that how does that work? I
So
don't even know.
it would either have to be that they would change their practice time, or if it was a game, they would just follow the schedule.
Yeah, okay.
No easy answer here.
yeah.
Yeah, I have elementary and middle schoolers still. High school parent-teacher conferences,
It doesn't
what's your,
It's really
It's a
kinda-
handful of people that show.
I'm a bad person, as we get very little business.
Yeah.
And so, but also, if we do a half day, like, our kids aren't necessarily a childcare concern.
Right.
They don't have to worry
right,
about it. So
No,
I'm
mi-
really-
middle,
them.
Not the
middle
person
school, I
asking
guess.
them.
Right.
We
Middle,
didn't,
middle school.
I'm high school only at this
Yeah.
point,
yeah.
so.
But even middle school conferences, how, like, what's your attendance rate on a middle school
Very high.
conference?
Oh,
Very
yeah,
high.
oh, yeah, those will be
Okay.
high.
Those-
Middle school, elementary, and primary are very, very high. High school
I'm
is
taking it
just not.
personally that people won't come.
Sorry.
Put that in your goals for next year, Mr.
Hey, look, I
O'Connor.
haven't missed one yet.
You should have like something going on, like a game or a performance or something, and people will go.
Well, we do have games that night. There are, JV and varsity boys basketball.
Oops, so you can't go
This
anywhere.
time around.
Oh, yeah, so now I'm gonna
Could be a
miss,
draw.
I'll miss the conferences, because I'll have to go to my son's basketball game. It works out great for me. I'm voting no. I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
It's hard to find a day when there isn't something.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially this time of the
We're
year
just
too,
try-
right now.
I agree with you that they should have these conferences. I knew that when we canceled it, that there was never going to be a way that we were going to find something that was going to work for everybody. The question is, what works best for as many people as possible? And, I mean, I can go to the union and say that we want to do it on Thursday, the 20th. I just don't know what your thoughts are with regards to parents coming out. I mean,
Well, you're gonna miss all the track parents that night, because there is a track meet.
there's a track meet there, so there you go. I mean, it's,
yeah.
and
This time of
there's
year is hard.
35
It
kids
is.
playing,
It is.
running track,
So much
so.
going on with the holidays too.
And a lot of them are middle schoolers.
Yeah, so-
Oh, boy.
So there's,
I mean, the 20th is an option. It stays on a Thursday, like you mentioned, Brett. It's just a little bit closer. It's unfortunate,
The
but
13th is chorus
Then it
and
gives you
band
2 half days in
performing
a row.
at the middle school.
middle school. And he's got a really big group.
Yeah.
Middle school chorus and band is really, which is a great thing, because we were concerned we were going to lose our
Like 30
programs.
would be right in
Now
the
the
middle
numbers are
of-
fantastic.
That'll be right in the,
And I gotta believe you're right. If there's 2 half days before the Christmas break,
People just
nobody's gonna show
start
up.
vacation early.
I mean, that's just.
Well, it's not really a half day, so for the high school, well, they're all 4-hour days, so, for the kids, but, I mean, so the classes will take place, learning will go on. So, I would hope that the general public would realize that they are, in fact, still time on learning. So, I would hope that students would be showing up. It would be the same as any other early release days. There'll be bus transportation for the kids to get to and from. So they shouldn't see it in that vein, although I understand your point. We were trying to avoid this,
Yeah.
and as it turns out,
Back
we're
again.
right back where we started from.
Okay. Yeah, I'm leaning towards, I think the value of the conference for those that really need it is probably higher than the value of the full day of learning. As much as I value the full day of learning, because I do think the half days tend to get a little loose with the learning sometimes, so.
And especially if it was on the 20th.
Yeah, I think the 20th would
There'd
be,
be no learning.
yeah.
Sorry, I mean, there just
Yeah.
wouldn't be.
So.
There's something to keep in mind is that all four schools are over state mandates for time on learning. So there is, the high school is a 980? 990?
990.
990.
We're at like 1020 something.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're not going to get cited by the state because. we
Yeah,
took
no,
the
I'm not
effort.
Still,
worried,
I mean-
no, just the general concept of
Yep.
more time on learning, so. Okay. Any other discussion, or we think we're ready to attempt a motion?
I'm just
I
not
did, by the
sure
way,
what
put
the
some
motion
language
is.
there if you're looking to change, but if you want me to look at the 20th,
I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think the 20th.
I don't think any of us are
I think the
really
12th,
super-
yeah, my thought is the 12th is probably the best option. So if we
So,
do it, we
if-
stick with
if-
the 12th.
okay, so I did put some language there. I pulled it together before I came up when I realized that I didn't leave you any language, so there's some language there if you want to say that again. Yeah, next week. Well,
Next week.
I think word has circulated a little bit already that we were trying to do the 12th anyways, so.
Yeah.
And you'll
I-
just do a one call too right away.
Yeah, so
tomorrow,
I obviously won't do it tonight, but tomorrow morning I'll do a one call for the entire district and get it, so people, this, the earliest we can let them know is tomorrow morning around 9 o'clock. I'll make phone calls, or 10 o'clock, and
Yeah, I would say, are the schedules full, I guess? Do we want to give people an opportunity to move their time if there's an open slot at a different time?
I would make some sort of a call
it-
that
is-
indicates that if this creates a problem for you and you need to change a time, you can try to call the school.
Is that system still
There's
active?
no guarantee that they're gonna be able to do that.
The system that we use to schedule, is that still active? Or can we make sure that it is still active?
That's a good question, I don't know.
Right, because were there any blank spots in it?
Keep them motive.
Is there?
Yeah, like we had a 6 o'clock time slot, we wouldn't be able to make 6, but we could make 6:45, or,
Yeah,
you
so
know.
I think what everybody was hoping was that we would just keep the same
Yeah.
time slots, because that way we would maximize the number of people that could get in.
Well, I'm just thinking that if there was already a slot open at a certain time, just,
Because as
Someone
as
can
I
move into
understand
that.
it, there are very few, if any, slots in any of the three buildings.
yeah, probably not. But
Plenty.
I'm just saying, if there is, yeah.
So when they go to school and they do
I'm
the
gonna
half day,
come by and just
how
see you
many
instead,
hours are
yeah.
they actually
6:45, yeah.
here in the morning and
So
the
the
teachers?
the teachers?
Yeah.
So the teachers do 5.5 hours at the high school, and I think it's 4.5 hours at the other schools, because the teachers only do an hour and a half at night for conferences, where the other schools do 2.5 hours.
So
Well,
we
what time
can
will the
maximize
high school get
7.
out? Like, isn't your bus schedule
High
gonna
school,
be?
the students will be dismissed at the regular times
Oh,
for early release.
teachers go,
The
okay.
teachers will not leave.
They'll stay an extra.
So we have an extra half hour, so last time, did they kind of have that extra cushion to prep and stuff, and this time they won't need that, because they already had that day? So can we add a little bit extra time to the conferences? And utilize that,
No, because
the
it'll be
whole
over,
7 hours?
it'll be over 7 hours.
7
They're
hours.
already using the whole 7 hours.
You said it was only an hour and a half, though?
No, his is an hour and a
What about
half,
the middle school and primary?
Right.
2.5.
and it's 5.5 during the day, so 5.5 and an hour and a half
Oh,
is
so
7
the
hours.
conferences are 2.5 hours?
So at the elementary and the primary, they're 2.5 hours. I believe that the middle school is actually 3, which they chose to have.
Yeah.
And the high school's an hour and a half. So the teachers stay longer at the high school, so. So everybody ends up at 7 hours, Julie, no matter how you slice it, it would be 7 hours. They would follow the same schedule we had all along.
Okay. Yeah, I would just ask if we can just look at that, if that system is still available, in case, if there is if there were time slots open, people can grab those open time slots and potentially.
You want me to try to call Donna real quickly? She coordinates that?
I don't know who coordinated it, to be honest with you.
I think Donna, I think Donna. She was the one talking about getting in
You ready?
Any other? Yeah, that's not going to stop my vote one way or the other, but it'd be a nice add-on and to be able to mention that in the one call, and maybe as much as I hate killing trees, a piece of paper home as well, probably for the youngins. I know a lot of folks tend to pay attention to those a little bit more as reminders. So,
Okay.
Good.
other than that, yeah, if someone's ready to make a motion.
I move to formally change the 2018-2019 school calendar to accommodate the rescheduling of the canceled evening parent-teacher conference of November 15th. To accommodate this rescheduling, I move to change the scheduled full day of school for December 12th to an early release day, with parent-teacher conferences to be held as had been scheduled for November 15th, 2018.
Okay, that's a mouthful. We have a motion from Lisa. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Kelly. Any other discussion? Anyone? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained?
Thank you. I apologize that it had to be so convoluted, but
No,
we
that's-
are
what it
governed
is.
and bound by the collective
Yeah.
bargaining agreement.
Donna doesn't run that.
Okay.
I think it was the
Thank you.
secretaries.
Okay.
It's the secretaries
And
in
if
the
there's a
school
snow
buildings,
day
yeah.
next Wednesday, that's
Now
it.
then, we're done.
Yeah, this is a-
That's it.
I wrote telling Ms. Souza that there was another flood.
Oh, no, you wouldn't do that. No, we
that's so
don't like
mean.
that word.
Okay.
To me and Jeff.
Next, Mr. Romano, you're back on. So we have a Douglas High School proposal to change the structure of classroom C-110.
So,
Yes.
I asked Josh to be here tonight because technically I don't know whether or not we needed to vote on this because the room was set up as a computer lab.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna be in its intended purpose. And so technically, we are changing
Right.
the structure of the classroom, and so that's why I thought you should probably have to vote on it, because that's why I put it on here as a vote item, a consent agenda, because we are technically changing C-110's purpose and its setup.
Yeah, so
I feel like that's more of a school building committee thing than a school policy committee.
No, but you're in charge, you're responsible for everything in this
Oh, yeah,
building.
it is, because it was, yeah, it's been,
So any changes that we make to this building has to go through you.
yep.
So Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're thinking for?
So C-110, which is the room directly below this, it's shaped the same way. It was originally purposed as a computer lab. Now, as time has gone by, though, we use less and less desktop computers, more and more of the portable devices, and so the room has gradually gone from being used every period, every day, to actually this year not being used at all, and the desktops themselves were taken out and kind of reused in other places. So with the flood, the floor was damaged in there, and the furniture. Now the furniture down there with these long computer tables that they're not portable, you really can't move things around, and there are outlets in the floor, and all of that needs to be replaced. The floor needs to be replaced, the long tables, the outlets, all that stuff. And so to our thinking, it didn't make a lot of sense to restore it the way it was if we're not going to use it for that purpose. So what I wanted to do instead was, regardless of how we do the power, we want to try to maybe see if we, instead of having outlets in the floor, we can have them put along the sides of the room instead. But we want to not bring back or not reinstall large unmovable computer tables, and instead we're going to put in some more modular furniture so we can use it for a variety of other purposes. It can be like a large group instruction room. It can be, we combine guidance classes and things like that. It can also be another meeting room when teachers are doing curriculum work, things like that. So we just want to be able to get better use out of it than what we're getting now.
Makes sense.
We would also at some point have to ask, probably at this point, give some consideration to whether or not, if we're going to do this, that those desks that are still usable, some of them are not, some of them are, we could put them on a listserv and see if anybody has any interest in have them come pick them up instead of just discarding them.
Yeah.
But Josh is right. In order for them to go back in there, they are permanently affixed to the floor. They are all attached to each other as one long row. They were set up as a PC, so the screen was embedded, and it, great at the time. It was cutting edge. 15 years ago, it really was cutting edge, and we were really ecstatic that we had 4 computer labs in the building. But the point is that the electricity in the floor, we would need to get approval, because what we would like to do is cap that. And like Josh said, put them on strips along the wall. So if, for example, the robotics classroom, which we're really moving towards and getting a lot of excitement, they need the electricity, they need it on the wall, they need a space in the middle that they can use for moving the robots and so forth. It would be ideal for that. Or it could go back to being a traditional classroom even, with some desks in there, and be used in that realm also. But the long and short of it is, we're asking is that we not put it back as a computer lab, because it's just not necessary to be a computer lab. Now, unfortunately, the flood gave us the opportunity, because we had been talking about that eventually we were gonna have to come
We
in
had
and talk
been,
about
yeah.
this. So now that it's here, it just prompted us to go quicker with it, and ask you guys to decide whether or not you want us to put it back as a lab, or I to give you some language on that as well, that I put together real quickly, but we could redeploy, reappropriate, if that's the word, that room.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Comments, concerns?
So
Okay.
I move to approve converting room C110 from a computer lab to a general purpose classroom.
Okay. Motion from Julie. Is there a second? Second from Lisa. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstains? Unanimous. Thank you.
So
Thank
it
you.
would be a classroom or a computer lab,
Yeah.
or, a robotics lab, or something along those lines.
Blank slate.
Basically, it's blank slate. We're just not making it a computer lab anymore. Yeah.
Like it.
Thank you.
Looking
Thanks,
to the
Josh,
future.
for being here and doing that.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings us to our school business and operations manager's report. Ms. Keegan.
Yeah, all I have this evening for you is, I remember I spoke at the last meeting about getting the encumbrances in to the general fund budget in Munis, and so most of these, except for the last few at the very end, are all the salary, moving salary, covering all the salary lines throughout the entire district. And then, once these are posted, and the ones from November 20th, then I will be able to provide you a much better looking, hopefully better looking report on the 19th, general fund budget report.
Okay.
So does anyone have any questions on the budgetary transfers number 5?
Nope. No questions? Anyone have a motion?
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2018 budgetary transfers number 5 for school committee meeting December 5th, 2018.
Second?
Motion from Julie, second from Lisa. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. All
Okay,
set.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have one reclass. Again, that's that same thing where, didn't catch it, going into the old account that we've been using for 3 decades, that, they
Yeah.
changed, and so it's just moving that to the new account number for long-term substitutes.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion on reclassification number 5.
All right, so I move that we approve the fiscal year 2019 reclassification number 5 for school committee meeting December 5th, 2018.
Second.
Motion from Julie, second from Lisa. She beat you again, Kelly.
She's quick.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? None. I just want to go back to the last one. I think you
Oh.
actually said it in your motion too. It says FY 2018 budgetary transfer, and I think
It
you stated
does.
FY 2018 as well. Just want to note this is actually an FY
Oh, my
2019
goodness.
budgetary transfer.
You know why? I was looking at the FY 18 audit, which I'm
Yeah.
gonna go mention to you.
So,
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Yep, thank you.
does anyone want to re-vote on that now, knowing that it's actually 19 and not 18?
FY 19.
Everyone
think we're
understands
still
that?
Take a note that it's 19.
I think we're
you know,
still
yeah.
We all
Yeah, we
understand.
don't wanna go
Thank you.
back into 18
I'll
all
make
over
sure
again. No,
everyone's
thank you.
comfortable with that, so.
Speaking of FY 2018, we just got the draft of the Student Activity Fund audit. So I'm just waiting for a couple of, there's just minor things in there I'm reviewing, waiting for a couple of responses. One response from the high school, one from the middle school. And then they made a couple of recommendations, but I'll be bringing that to you probably at the next meeting.
Okay.
They can finalize the draft. The end of the year report audit has not even started yet. They're very late with the compliance guidelines that go to the auditors from DESE, so they said they're finally gonna be out in 2 weeks. It's very late.
Yeah.
Yeah, very late for them to come out, so Other than that, we are starting on the budget process. I'll be sending out the forms when we get back from the Christmas vacation.
So do we have a schedule and process from the town administrator? Any communication from them in regards to this year's budget?
Well, we did
Oh, as
meet
far
a
as
couple
figures, you
weeks ago.
mean,
No, just
or-
the process and schedule and anything.
Oh, they don't have any,
anything-
there's no discussion regarding scheduling. It's just per Mass General Law, we always have the same time that we have to get it to them.
Okay.
You know, the backup those days, and they'll send us out a date, you know, by then. But, you know, for the finance committee and.
Yeah, understood, yeah, I just want to know.
Yeah, but nothing's come from them, no, nothing,
Nope.
nothing, no. But we'll be starting to do the forms and all that, get those out to the administrators and start putting together the budget. We'll have it done, you know, prior to when they need it.
Yep.
Yep, so.
Okay. Great. Any topics not anticipated?
Yes.
Discuss.
So we would like to try to arrange for next week for a budget subcommittee to meet. And I'll reach out to you and Lisa to see if there's a date that works.
Sounds
But
good.
we should meet, put it on the record that the budget subcommittee will meet next week.
Okay. Do we think that would end up with a, well, I guess we can figure out at the meeting whether it'd be a topic for our next meeting or not, on what, we'll at least have a readout from that. But I don't know if we're looking to bring anything forward at that point, probably not, right? No.
Well, we want to have Donna come into that meeting, so.
Yes, yeah,
So
she'll be
there'll
coming in.
she'll be coming in with some very specific
Okay.
thoughts.
Okay.
So there might be some things that we might want to bring to the
Okay.
committee on the 19th as well. That's kind of why we tried to do it in between the two meetings.
Right.
I do have one other topic. We did discuss the possibility of moving our January meetings. Does anyone anticipate that the January 2nd
January
meeting
2nd
will
is kind
be
of-
an issue for them? It's not going to be an issue for me.
Fine with me.
So we'll just hold on to our regular schedule of January, so it'll be the 2nd and the
I should
16th
say the
then.
19th,
So-
2019.
Yeah, you change it to the 19
Okay.
on the bottom of the page there.
So we'll do the schedule as is. So our next meeting will be December 19th, 2018. The following meeting after that will be January 2nd, 2019. So,
Is that
Okay.
Tuesday?
anything else? If not, I'll be looking for no, we are going to move to executive session to hopefully wrap up the conversation on Mr. Mainz's contract extension.
Okay, so
So we will need a roll call vote to move to executive session, and we will not return to public session except for the purposes of adjourning.
Also, it's just for the
So-
public to see the people.
Kelly Grady, aye. Julie Mulder, aye.
Brett Argel, aye.
Lisa Brown, aye.
Okay. We are moving to executive session.